No one in the arena knew what was coming. Not the fans screaming in the stands. Not the commentators with their fast-paced chatter. Not even the two legends stepping into the ring, calm but aware of the storm about to unfold. The lights shone brightly on the canvas, reflecting off the sweat and anticipation. Cameras panned across the crowd, faces full of excitement, phones poised to capture every second. But behind every cheer, every flash of light, there was a tension no one could name, yet. All they knew was this. Manny Pacquiao, the lightning-fast boxing icon, was about to face Chuck Norris, the martial arts legend whose very presence commanded respect. Two masters, two worlds of skill, and one ring that would test everything they had learned over decades of training and discipline. And in the next seconds, everything would change. Not with chaos. Not with shouting. Not with a single dramatic overreaction. It would change with a precision and intensity so controlled, so deliberate, that the entire arena would fall silent, everyone holding their breath as they witnessed what mastery really looked like. Every step, every glance, every subtle movement spoke volumes. The tension wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional, and utterly magnetic. People in the front rows leaned forward. The cameras zoomed in. Even the commentators' voices faltered for a split second. This wasn't just a fight. It was a collision of legends. A meeting of skill, discipline, and sheer willpower. Engagement. Have you ever witnessed a battle so intense that it made time feel like it stopped? That moment when the world fades away, leaving only the power, the skill, and the silence? Tonight, that moment was about to arrive. And no one in the arena would ever forget it. The arena was alive. A sea of faces, each one lit by the glow of the ring lights and the flashes of hundreds of cameras. Fans chanted, screamed, and waved banners. The roar of excitement echoed off the walls, bouncing through the rafters, shaking every seat. Yet beneath all the noise, there was a rhythm, a pulse that only those who have been in the ring could feel. Manny Pacquiao moved quietly in his corner, stretching and warming up with precise, fluid motions. Every jab, every shuffle of his feet was calculated, almost meditative. His hands were steady, his mind calm, his eyes focused. He wasn't thinking about the crowd. He wasn't thinking about the hype or the cameras. All that mattered was the moment when the bell would ring, and what he would do next. Across the ring, Chuck Norris made his entrance. Silence seemed to follow him like a shadow. Every step was measured, every breath controlled. There was no need for theatrics. His presence alone commanded attention. The crowd cheered loudly, but Chuck barely flinched. He adjusted his gloves, bounced lightly on his feet, and scanned the arena with an intensity that spoke of decades of experience. Every move was deliberate. Every second in the ring was an opportunity. To anyone watching, it was just another high-profile fight. Two legends facing off in a ring under bright lights, surrounded by roaring fans and flashing cameras. But anyone who truly understood the sport knew this was far from ordinary. The tension wasn't in the punches. They hadn't even started yet. The tension was invisible, but it was everywhere. In the quiet moments before the storm, in the sharp intake of breath as the fighters measured each other, in the subtle glances, the shifting weight, the calculated timing of a stretch or a footstep. The arena pulsed with anticipation. Commentators tried to hype the fight, their voices rising over the crowd, but even they sensed the weight of what was about to happen. Security glanced toward the corners, watching the fighters, aware that something extraordinary was on the edge of unfolding. Cameras zoomed in on every angle, the sweat on Manny's brow, the steel in Chuck's eyes, the tension in every muscle. This moment, before the first strike, is what defines a fight. Many underestimate it. They think only the hits matter. They don't. It's the seconds before the clash, when patience and preparation meet raw anticipation, that often decide everything. Here, in this charged calm, the invisible battle begins. Focus versus focus, discipline versus discipline, experience versus instinct. Why this matters? The tension before a fight is invisible to the crowd, but it determines everything. How a fighter moves, how a fighter reacts, how a fighter chooses the moment to strike or to wait, it all starts here, in the calm, when the world around them seems loud but they hear nothing. This is where champions are made. In this moment, every heartbeat counted. Every twitch, every glance, every shift of weight was a message. And both men knew that when the bell rang, Nothing would ever be the same again. The bell rang. The arena seemed to hold its breath. Even with thousands of fans screaming, cheering, and waving signs, there was a sudden hush in the air, the kind of silence that only comes when something extraordinary is about to unfold. Manny Pacquiao moved first. Light on his feet, quick, testing. Every step precise, almost musical in its rhythm. His jabs were sharp, probing, small sparks of energy designed to gauge, to read, to measure. He wasn't going for a knockout yet. He was laying the groundwork, mapping out his opponent with every punch. Chuck Norris circled, calm, almost relaxed, but every inch of him radiated awareness. His eyes scanned, calculating. His hands were ready to block, deflect, or counter. The years of martial arts mastery were evident in his stance. Nothing wasted, everything purposeful. Every twitch of a muscle, every subtle shift of weight, spoke of decades spent perfecting timing, balance, and precision. The first strikes landed. Pacquiao's lightning-fast jab clipped Norris's shoulder. A test. Norris's response, a swift parry, almost invisible, earned a gasp from the crowd. The commentators shouted, their voices rising over the roar of the audience. "Did you see that? Incredible timing. Every move is measured. This is chess at 1,000 miles per hour." It wasn't just speed or power. It was awareness. Every punch, every feint, every step carried years of training. Years of conditioning. Years of instinct fused with discipline. Pacquiao threw a quick combination. A left, a right, a shuffle forward. Norris stepped back, absorbing, redirecting, his feet gliding across the canvas like a cat anticipating the fall of its prey. The crowd leaned forward. The camera zoomed in. Every spectator, whether they understood the techniques or not, could feel the tension crackle in the air like electricity. Then Norris moved. A subtle shift, almost imperceptible. He advanced with a measured precision, forcing Pacquiao to adjust, to think, to react. The crowd erupted with a mix of awe and excitement, sensing the clash of two worlds, the pure, explosive boxing speed of Pacquiao versus the calculated, disciplined martial arts mastery of Norris. Fans began counting the seconds, hearts racing, as every exchange grew faster, tighter, more intense. The bell of the round faded into the background. The audience was no longer just watching, they were living the fight in real time, feeling each movement as though it were their own. Pacquiao feinted to the left, then snapped a right hook toward Norris's head. Norris tilted his body, deflecting the strike with a flick of his wrist, almost theatrically calm. Yet the audience could see it, the force, the intent, the control. Every strike carried danger, but also restraint. Neither man was reckless. Each was testing the other, feeling the boundaries of their skill, probing weaknesses that might not exist. Commentators struggled to keep up. Pacquiao's speed is unbelievable. Norris isn't even breaking a sweat. You can see the mind games here, one false move, and it could change everything. Round after round, the pattern emerged. Quick jabs. Calculated defenses. Explosive counters. The ring became a battlefield of thought and reflex, a chessboard of fists and strategy. Every step, every glance, every tiny adjustment carried meaning. Pacquiao read Norris's eyes, anticipating movement. Norris studied Pacquiao's rhythm, calculating the perfect time to strike. Fans gasped, muttered, and shouted. Phones raised to capture what seemed like impossible speed and precision. Then, a defining moment, Pacquiao launched a lightning combination, a blur of fists moving in perfect sequence. Norris blocked and countered simultaneously, a single, fluid motion that drew a collective gasp from the audience. Even the commentators went silent for a split second, caught between shock and admiration. The fight escalated, not with reckless aggression, but with mastery. Every exchange was a lesson in control, timing, and respect. Both men knew that one mistimed punch could shift momentum. One hesitation could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Yet neither flinched, neither rushed. Their movements were poetry disguised as violence, an elegant collision of speed, power, and discipline. The arena felt alive with energy. Fans could feel the tension in their bones, their hearts sinking with the rhythm of the fight. This wasn't about showmanship. It wasn't about hype or theatrics. It was about two masters testing each other, pushing limits, and letting skill speak louder than words. Every strike told a story. Every dodge revealed strategy. Every subtle movement whispered lessons in patience, discipline, and timing. The crowd wasn't just watching a fight. They were witnessing a duel of legends, a demonstration of what happens when experience meets speed, when instinct meets strategy, and when control meets chaos. Engagement. Have you ever seen a master test another master in real time? Have you ever felt that moment where the world fades away, and all that exists is skill, precision, and respect? Because in this ring, at this moment, that's exactly what was happening. The bell had rung. The first exchanges had set the stage. And now, in the center of the ring, both legends paused, not in hesitation, but in calculation. Manny Pacquiao felt the pressure. The roar of the crowd, the flashing lights, the weight of expectation, it all pressed on him. Not physically, but mentally. He could go all out, unleash the full fury of his speed and power, and risk leaving himself exposed to Norris's counters. One misstep, one overcommitment, and the fight could turn in an instant. He shifted his weight, bouncing lightly on the balls of his feet. Every muscle was primed. Every nerve tuned to lightning speed. And yet, he resisted the instinct to strike aggressively. Pacquiao knew that this fight wasn't just about who hit the hardest. It was about who waited for the right moment. The moment when patience would reward precision, and precision would define victory. Across the ring, Chuck Norris was watching. Calm. Focused. Every twitch of Pacquiao's shoulder, every subtle shuffle of his feet, every glance to the corner, Norris saw it all. His decades of martial arts mastery had taught him that the fight wasn't won in chaos. It was won in awareness, in timing, in the ability to act decisively when the moment demanded it. Norris's mind raced, not with panic or aggression, but with strategy. He analyzed Pacquiao's movements, reading patterns, anticipating feints, and mapping openings. Every fighter leaves traces, subtle cues in body posture, breathing, and rhythm. Norris had trained his eyes to notice the invisible, to predict the unpredictable. And he was calculating the perfect moment to strike, a moment that could change everything. Pacquiao feinted left, testing Norris's reflexes. Norris shifted slightly, just enough to block any potential strike, while leaving himself ready for a counter. Pacquiao's speed was blinding, but Norris's experience was a shield, every move anticipated, every reaction measured. The crowd watched in awe, sensing the tension without fully understanding it. They saw punches land, dodges executed, and kicks deflected, but what they didn't see were the endless calculations running through both fighters' minds. Every heartbeat, every twitch of a muscle, every breath was a signal, a decision, a choice. Pacquiao felt the urge to go faster, to overwhelm Norris with sheer speed. But he resisted. Speed without strategy was wasted energy. He measured distance, gauged angles, and watched for the moment when Norris would leave even the tiniest opening. Patience, he reminded himself. Discipline. Control. That was the true path to victory. Norris, in turn, recognized the same pattern. Pacquiao's lightning-fast hands were a storm, but storms are predictable when you've learned to read the clouds. He could wait, redirect, and counter. He knew that victory belonged not to the one who strikes first, but to the one who strikes at the exact right moment, decisively, without hesitation. The crowd erupted at a flurry of blows, but in that chaos, the fighters remained silent in their minds. Pacquiao's hands moved like lightning, yet each strike was a question. Will Norris react? How will he respond? Norris's counters were measured answers. The slightest parry, the smallest redirection, almost imperceptible to the human eye. And then there was the mental weight, the inner dialogue that every champion carries in the ring. Pacquiao reminded himself, stay calm. Wait. Watch. Strike with purpose. Norris reminded himself, observe. Predict. Protect. Act decisively. It wasn't about aggression. It wasn't about who could hit harder or faster. It was about control, timing, patience, the mastery of restraint, knowing when to act and when to wait. Every fighter has moments when instinct tempts them to move too fast, to react too aggressively, to let emotion overrule strategy. But true masters like Pacquiao and Norris knew the danger of giving in. One impulsive move could undo decades of training. One miscalculated strike could shift momentum irreversibly. The arena seemed to shrink around them. The crowd became a distant murmur. Flashing cameras and roaring fans faded into the background. In the ring, it was just two minds, two bodies, two lifetimes of preparation colliding in a silent conversation of skill and strategy. And then, in that tension, the right moment appeared. A subtle shift in balance. A breath misaligned. A micro-opening that only a master could notice. Pacquiao's eyes locked on it. Norris's body responded instinctively. Each prepared for the pivotal exchange that could define the round, or perhaps the fight. This was the essence of combat. Not chaos, not reckless aggression, but calculation under pressure. The strongest fighter isn't always the fastest or loudest. It's the one who chooses the right moment, who balances patience with action, who lets mastery dictate the outcome rather than emotion. Lesson. Control isn't weakness. Waiting isn't hesitation. Strength is knowing when to strike, and when to hold back. That is what separates legends from mere fighters. In the ring, Pacquiao and Norris weren't just battling with fists. They were battling with minds, with instincts, with every ounce of training, discipline, and life experience they had accumulated. Every second, every heartbeat, every micro-movement mattered. And the fight was only beginning. Round after round, the arena pulsed with energy. Blazing speed, precise punches, and explosive counters filled the ring. Each exchange was a dance of skill, timing, and discipline. The crowd couldn't sit still. Fans were on their feet, phones raised, desperate to capture the impossible. Pacquiao moved like lightning, weaving in and out, throwing combinations that tested every fiber of Norris's defense. His fists struck and retreated in perfect rhythm, each one a question, probing for weakness. Yet Chuck responded with the same measured precision. He didn't flinch, he didn't panic. Each counter was calculated, controlled, perfectly placed. A subtle strike here, a slight parry there, enough to keep Pacquiao honest, enough to remind the world that every move carried consequences. The crowd gasped as Pacquiao dodged a spinning roundhouse kick that could have ended the exchange in a flash. Norris's kick was powerful, fast, and precise, but Pacquiao's instincts were sharper in that instant. The dodge flowed seamlessly into a lightning jab, testing Norris's reflexes again. Every punch, every block, every step was a masterclass in anticipation and control. And yet, neither fighter overcommit. Neither underestimated the other. Every strike was measured. Every counter intentional. The audience could feel the tension rise with every heartbeat. Commentators shouted, trying to keep pace with the speed of the fight, their voices a mix of awe and disbelief. Unbelievable! The precision, the timing, these two legends are reading each other like an open book. Every move counts. Every second could change the fight. Then it happened. A pivotal exchange that would change the momentum of the fight. Pacquiao feinted left, his lightning-fast left hand snapping toward Norris's guard. Norris anticipated, blocking and redirecting the force with near-imperceptible movements. Pacquiao flowed into a right hook, but Norris pivoted, countering with a sharp palm strike to the midsection, light enough not to be reckless, strong enough to shift Pacquiao's balance. The crowd gasped collectively, some frozen in shock, others holding their breath as the subtle power play unfolded in real time. For a moment, time seemed to slow. Every eye in the arena was glued to the ring. The commentators' words faded into background noise. The fans didn't cheer or boo, they simply watched, caught in the tension of this monumental collision of skill. The subtle shift in momentum was enough. Pacquiao paused, re-evaluating. Norris held his stance, waiting, calculating, respecting the mastery of his opponent. Neither had made a mistake, but the exchange revealed something crucial. The fight was no longer about raw speed or power. It was about control, timing, decision-making under pressure. The crowd erupted again as Pacquiao launched another combination, faster than the eye could follow, testing Norris's defense. Norris countered seamlessly, deflecting each strike while maintaining balance. Every move told a story of experience, discipline, and strategy honed over decades. This was the moment every fan had been waiting for. Not a single knockout, not a flurry of wild punches, but the undeniable demonstration of two masters testing each other, pushing limits, and showing the world the power of patience, control, and precision. Engagement. If you were ringside, would you cheer, or hold your breath? Could you watch two legends push each other to the edge and not feel your heart racing, your stomach twisting, as every strike carried the weight of skill, speed, and life experience? Because in that moment, nothing else mattered. The fight wasn't just physical, it was mental, it was strategic, it was pure mastery on display. The arena was electric. Every fan was on their feet, cameras raised, breaths held. The air was thick with anticipation, every second amplified by the tension that had been building since the first bell. Round after round, the exchanges had escalated. And now, in the center of the ring, both legends reached the apex of their mastery. Pacquiao moved first, a blur of speed and precision. His fists flew like lightning, combinations that seemed impossible to track with the naked eye. Each jab, each hook, each uppercut carried intention. Every strike was calculated, meant to probe, to test, to create openings. The sheer velocity was breathtaking, almost hypnotic. Chuck Norris responded like a mirror of discipline. Each block was exact, each parry precise. He shifted his weight with a mastery that made even the fastest blows appear manageable. His counters were devastating, but restrained, not reckless, not chaotic. He understood the moment. Control was power, and restraint was strength. The crowd watched, mouths open, hearts racing, as this titanic clash unfolded. It wasn't just a fight, it was a dialogue. Every punch, every kick, every movement was a sentence in a story only the fighters fully understood. Commentators shouted in awe, trying to keep pace. "Look at that speed! Incredible! Every strike perfectly timed. This is artistry in motion." For a moment, it felt like the world had paused. Every distraction faded, the cheers, the lights, the cameras. The arena became a vacuum, existing only for the two warriors in the ring. Pacquiao's lightning-fast fists and Norris's disciplined counters moved in perfect harmony, as if choreographed, yet alive with the unpredictability of raw skill. Then, in a flash of brilliance, Pacquiao landed a signature move, a combination he had practiced thousands of times, executed with flawless timing. Norris saw it coming and reacted instantly, his block shifting the force of the attack rather than absorbing it fully. The subtle redirection was enough to change momentum, to test Pacquiao's reflexes and adaptability. The fighters paused for a heartbeat, reading each other again, aware that the fight could turn in an instant. The crowd erupted. Some screamed, some gasped, some held their breath. Cameras captured every split-second reaction. Commentators were momentarily speechless, stunned by the precision and control displayed before them. Pacquiao adjusted instantly, flowing into another rapid combination. Norris met each strike with calm precision, deflecting and countering without a hint of panic. Every movement was deliberate. Every choice carried weight. This was more than a fight, it was a demonstration of the highest form of mastery. Control under pressure, timing in chaos, respect for skill. The tension peaked. Pacquiao feinted left, drawing Norris into a response, then pivoted and launched a rapid right-hand sequence. Norris blocked, but the subtle shift in balance allowed Pacquiao to gain a slight edge, just enough to press momentum without overcommitting. Each move, each counter, was a lesson in strategy. The fighters weren't looking to destroy, they were proving mastery. Fans were on the edge of their seats, some frozen in awe, others cheering wildly. The arena had transformed into a living classroom of combat, an exhibition of skill, discipline, and experience. Every observer could feel the weight of history in the ring, the culmination of decades of training and refinement in each lightning-fast exchange. And then it was over, at least for that round. The bell rang. The crowd erupted into a mixture of cheers and disbelief. Phones recorded every moment, commentators scrambled to process what had just happened, and the fighters, breathing hard but composed, acknowledged each other with subtle nods. This was the climax, the moment that defined not just the round but the fight's philosophy. Victory here wasn't measured by a single knockout punch. It wasn't about brute force or speed alone. It was measured by control, by knowing when to strike and when to wait, by understanding timing and positioning, and by respecting the opponent enough to engage with intelligence rather than ego. Pacquiao and Norris stepped back, circling each other, still calculating, still aware that the fight was far from over. But in that moment, the lesson was clear to everyone watching. In a true battle of masters, the difference isn't in the number of hits landed, but in control, timing, and respect. This is what separates legends from challengers. What separates mastery from mere aggression. And what leaves audiences not just cheering, but awestruck. The bell echoed in the arena, a reminder that even in the heat of combat, discipline and control reigned supreme. Every fighter could feel it. Every fan could see it. And history, in its own quiet way, had been made. Lesson. In a true battle of masters, victory is measured not just in hits, but in control, timing, and respect. The bell rang one final time. The echoes bounced through the arena, carrying the weight of every punch, every feint, every second of tension that had unfolded in the ring. Both men lowered their fists and turned to face each other. In that moment, the noise of the crowd seemed to fade. Cameras zoomed in, capturing the smallest of gestures, the subtle nods, the quiet acknowledgement of decades of mastery and experience. Pacquiao raised his hand slightly. Norris mirrored him. Two legends, two masters, acknowledging one another's skill without words, without theatrics, without any need for showmanship. There was no chaos. No over-the-top celebration. No unnecessary posturing. Only respect, earned, mutual, undeniable. The crowd erupted anyway, but this time, not in shock at the force of punches, not at a dramatic knockout, but in awe of what they had witnessed. Fans were cheering, cameras were flashing, commentators were whispering over the broadcast, struggling to find words strong enough to capture the magnitude of the moment. You've just witnessed something historic. Not just a fight, but a masterclass in discipline and control. This isn't about who won or lost. It's about the power of mastery. By morning, the highlights were everywhere. Clips flooded social media, GIFs circulated, fan accounts replayed the most breathtaking exchanges over and over. But the reason people shared these moments wasn't just because of speed or impact, it was because of what they saw, the mastery, the restraint, the intelligence behind every move. Fans weren't sharing chaos. They weren't sharing destruction. They were sharing the lesson. The lesson that true greatness isn't always the loudest or the most explosive. It's in the control you maintain when everyone expects a show. It's in the timing you choose, the strategy you apply, and the respect you give, not just to your opponent, but to yourself and to the audience. Pacquiao and Norris stepped back from the center of the ring. Their eyes met briefly, a spark of mutual recognition passing between them. No words were needed. The crowd could feel it, the cameras could capture it, and the fight would be remembered forever because of it. Two men had tested each other, pushed each other to the edge, and come away with lessons for life, not just for combat. Commentators tried to summarize, but words fell short. Analysts repeated the same phrases: discipline, precision, respect, because nothing else could adequately convey the magnitude of what had just occurred. It was more than sport. It was philosophy in motion. A blueprint for mastery, applicable in every field of life, from business to art, from martial arts to personal growth. And the moral of this fight, the truth at the heart of it, became clear to everyone watching. True greatness is shown when skill is controlled, power is measured, and respect is earned. It's easy to assume that the loudest, fastest, most aggressive fighter dominates. But in reality, true mastery is quiet. It's strategic. It's patient. And it always leaves an impression far deeper than mere spectacle ever could. The video of the fight spread quickly, but it didn't go viral because of the punches. It went viral because people recognized mastery when they saw it. They recognized what it meant to balance patience with action, timing with power, and confidence with humility. Pacquiao and Norris didn't just fight. They demonstrated the essence of control, showing the world that strength is as much about restraint as it is about execution. Fans, new and old, were inspired. Some rewound the footage multiple times, studying the exchanges, trying to understand the split-second decisions that defined the match. Others shared the story with friends, family, and online communities, praising not just the skill, but the lessons behind it. And now, the question turns to you. Who do you think mastered control in this fight? Pacquiao or Chuck Norris? Type your answer in the comments and explain why. Was it Pacquiao's lightning speed and perfect timing? Or Norris's unwavering discipline and precise counters? Or maybe both? Because in the end, the fight wasn't just about victory in the ring, it was about victory in mastery, in respect, and in understanding the true essence of skill. And that is what makes this battle unforgettable, not just for the fans in the arena, but for everyone who watches, learns, and is inspired. The lesson is clear. In life, as in the ring, the strongest person is not always the one who strikes hardest or fastest. It's the one who controls themselves, respects their opponent, and acts with intention. That is the legacy of this fight, and the reason it will be remembered for years to come.